Okay, moving on to Anna's while standing punishment. Her while standing punishment is not it's not the best in the game. Um, she doesn't get a launcher until forever. You know, you are really waiting quite a long time before you can launch someone when you're in a while standing state. So that's kind of unfortunate. You can kind of get around that with some sneaky little tricks, which we'll talk about in a minute. But let's just go through her punishers. At 10 frames, technically you can do a down jab, just this. That gives you some frame advantage, and the reason why that's useful is because then you're in a better position to do some full crouch shenanigans mix-ups. Um, because you've got that frame advantage. Similarly, at 11 frames, you could do the down back 2 down jab. Um, the only difference is a little bit more frame advantage. I think it's 7 frames of advantage. So slightly stronger position to do full crouch mix-ups. Okay, so the next while standing punish that I want to talk about is 11 frames as well, and it's while standing 3. Okay, this move. Now, this move is good, it's a lot of damage, it's 27 points of damage, which is reasonably beefy for an 11 frame punish. But what's really interesting about this move is that you can transition to Chaos Judgment stance. Chaos Judgment stance is Anna's only stance, and it's got a lot of really interesting features. You can enter it manually by pressing back 3, but that's not really that viable. Sorry. Um, the only really good way to get into Chaos Judgment stance is with a successful while standing 3. It's the only real way to get in with any frame advantage, and you really need that to employ a successful Chaos Judgment mix-up. So while standing 3 is really useful in that regard. It's really simple to get into Chaos Judgment stance after while standing 3. You just hold back. There's nothing fancy about that. You just hold back and you will go into Chaos Judgment stance. And if you hit while standing 3, you go in with a lot of frame advantage. I think it's like +8. It could even be +9. So that's a lot. That makes a lot of stuff in Chaos Judgment stance uninterruptible. So they can't do anything to stop you. They may be able to sidestep you. Some of the tracking out of Chaos Judgment stance is a little questionable. But some of the stuff is uninterruptible by a counter attack. So uninterruptible stuff would be Chaos Judgment, up forward 4 would be a good one. That would be uninterruptible if you hit the while standing 3. Other stuff that would be uninterruptible would be her counter launcher, which is 3. Okay, if that's counter hit, that will be a launcher. Let me just show you that. Turn this counter hit on. And don't be good enough. Okay. There we go. Launch. So that's good. That can be sidestepped though. This move can't be sidestepped. But it's uninterruptible after while standing 3. Other stuff that's uninterruptible. Her low out of Chaos Judgment stance is pretty hard to crush after a successful while standing 3. Sorry. This move, the low. Some hop kicks crush earlier than others. But a lot of hop kicks will have trouble crushing this after while standing 3. It takes a certain amount of frames to get airborne to actually crush a low, so that's quite a good option. Of course, they can duck it, and if they duck it, you're in trouble. So that's what makes While Standing 3 a really good punish, is that it opens up a lot of options in Chaos Judgment stance. Now, you don't have to go into Chaos Judgment stance, you can of course just do the While Standing 3. Just be aware that the frames are, really drastically different when you don't go into Chaos Judgment stance. So I said that While Standing 3 into Chaos Judgment stance is about +8. If you don't go into Chaos Judgment stance and just do While Standing 3, it's neutral. Okay, it's 0. There's no frame advantage, there's no frame disadvantage. So, you just have to decide whether you want to just take the damage and maybe back off and move around, because if you go into Chaos Judgment stance, you've got access to your crouch dash, but that's all you can really do movement wise. You can't sidestep, you can't block in Chaos Judgment stance. Not that you really necessarily need to, because you're at such a lot of frame advantage, but if they're sidestepping a lot and giving you problems that way, then you're stuck static when you're in Chaos Judgment stance. So you've got to be aware of that, that your movement is limited in Chaos Judgment stance. So there may be occasions where you just want to do it without transitioning, and in those cases, just be aware that it's neutral, and that you don't have any real frame advantage, and be careful with your offense if you're not transitioning. Just while we're on the topic of While Standing 3, be aware that the frames are really different on block as well, okay? So this is punishment at the moment, but say if you had your While Standing 3 blocked. Just remember, this was called Face Wash, this move. It's kind of a weird name. While Standing 3. So if you get this blocked, and you don't transition into Chaos Judgment stance, it's actually punishable. It's like I think it might be -11. It's definitely jab punishable anyway. So that's it's pretty bad, really. But if you transition into Chaos Judgment stance on block, it's only about -2 or -3. So that's the difference. Again, a big difference, between being jab punishable and being really quite safe. That's the difference that transitioning into Chaos Judgment gives you with this move. So just keep it in mind, because, as I said before, it's a really huge difference, the frames, versus transitioning versus not transitioning. Okay, so the last 11 frame punish that I want to talk about is While Standing 4. This is 21 damage, and I'm only mentioning it really, I mean it does give you some frame advantage, about 4 or 5, but the reason why I'm talking about it is that the animation, it looks really similar to While Standing 3, practically identical. It's just a different leg. But in the heat of a match, your opponent may not be so sharp as to see the difference. I mean, you can, obviously it's a different leg, but when you're under pressure, your opponent may mistake them. And the reason why that is useful is that you can use While Standing 4 to test your opponent and see, because if your opponent is reasonably experienced with Ana, they'll know that While Standing 3 often transitions into Chaos Judgment stance. So if you can get them to confuse while standing 4 with while standing 3, then they're probably gonna expect Chaos Judgment Stance to be coming. And if you use while standing 4, you can see how they want to deal with Chaos Judgment Stance by what they do after while standing 4. Um, without the actual risk of being stuck in Chaos Judgment Stance and not being able to move. Um, so that's a little trick. You know, it won't work on everyone. If your opponent is sharp, they won't mistake the moves, but you know, it's something to keep in mind as a trick. Okay, we are on to Anna's 13 frame while standing punishes. For 13 frames, she can do while standing 1, which looks pretty identical to her normal standing down forward 1. There's no real difference in the animation, as far as I can see, but there is a difference in the frame advantage. So standing down forward 1 gives you +5, but while standing 1 gives you +7, a little bit more. But you can do all the same extensions from while standing 1 as you can do from down forward 1. You can do the 3-hit strings if you so desire, which does catch some people off guard, I think, just because if you crouch and do the while standing, they're not expecting the third hits. So keep it in mind. She also has another 13 frame punish from crouch, which is also available to her while she's standing, which is up forward 1. This move, this high move, which is the start of her string, this string, the fatal attack string or something. You know, her best wall carry string. You can do this, not that. You can do this from crouch as well. So, yeah. So you can do that from crouch. It gives you some frame advantage, but only the first hit is guaranteed. If you're using it as a punish, you're not going to get the whole string unless it's counter hit. And it shouldn't be. If you're punishing, it shouldn't be counter hit. But it is a punish, so keep it in mind. Okay, continuing on with Anna's while standing punishment. 14 frames, there's not really anything, unless I'm forgetting something. 15 frames, she does have the big high somersault kick thing, which I don't really use. I've got to be honest, I don't use it. I think I might use the back one that goes backwards at like the end of a round, not for a punish, but just for I don't know, just to frustrate your opponent. But as a punish, I don't really use it. Okay, so continuing on with her while standing punishment, nothing for 16, nothing for 17. It's not until 18 frames that Anna gets her while standing launcher, which is the reason why her while standing punishment is pretty poor, because that's quite late. Most of the cast get a while standing launcher way before that. So it's pretty bad, but yeah, her first launcher from while standing is her flip kick from crouch, which is just tap up forward 4. Be careful that you don't get the wrong input. That can sometimes happen if you hold it, but you just need to tap it and you'll get the flip kick, which you can get a full combo from. Okay. Also 18 frames is her blonde bomb. You can also do that from a crouch state. That's 1+2, and it looks like that. Okay. You can do it from crouch or from standing, which is standing 1 is just forward 1+2. It's the same animation. It's knockdown. It's 28 damage. You know, for moves that push you back, because up forward for the flip kick from crouch has got pretty bad range. Um, Not the best range. So, you know, while standing 1+2, you can use it. 19 frames is probably her best while standing a launcher, which is her while standing 2. But 19 frames is just so slow, you know. Um, it's so slow for a while standing 2. I mean, it's got good range. You can't argue about the range factor. I mean, it'll punish moves that uh, a lot of characters either can't punish or um, can't launch punish. For example, Paul, his forward, I think it's forward 2-2, the low. Anna can punish that, um, which not a lot of characters can do. Um, and it's taggable, so that's also a plus point in it. That you can get red life off it. Um, so yeah, it's just too slow. That's all. I'm going to mention for 20 frames her full crouch down forward to the sweep. You know, if you block a low that's 20 frames, I don't know why you would choose this over her while standing 2. There's no logic to that, but I'm just mentioning it because it will punish that. Okay, so now that we've covered Anna's punishment, you have probably worked out that she has to wait a little bit before she can launch punish. You know, minus 16 for her standing punishment. That's the first time she gets a launcher with her down forward 2, and her while standing is even worse because she has to wait until minus 18 to get the flip kick. So that's not the best. In terms of her while standing punishment, you know, you can kind of make up for that by using the opportunity after you block a low. Say it's a low that's maybe only minus 12. Of course, you can take the punish. You can take that while standing 3, and you know, that's a good option. But if you feel like maybe being a little bit riskier, then after blocking a low that's minus 12, you know, that's a pretty good time to employ your full crouch mix-up. Of course, the full crouch mix-up is full crouch down forward 2 being the sweep, or you've got a bunch of mid launchers, the while standing 2 or the forward 1. You know, it's a risky strategy, but especially the first time, you know, if you block a low that's maybe only minus 12 or something, your opponent is unlikely to duck after that. That's kind of counterintuitive. So when you hit them with the sweep, you know, they have a really hard time dealing with that because they're at minus 12. So to stop that is, that's going to be difficult for your opponent. So the first time you're definitely going to, I think you probably will have success with that. If they start cottoning on to the fact that you're not taking the actual punish and you're going for the sweep after blocking relatively minor lows, then you can mix them up and you can start doing the mids. And that's how you deal with them if they start ducking after you block, you know, minor lows. But it's a good little trick, and it kind of bolsters her punishment. I mean, it's not actual punishment, of course. You know, it's not guaranteed or anything like that. But you know, Anna's full crouch game is pretty awesome. So if you get the opportunity to utilize it, then you want to take that opportunity for sure. And one last thing that I want to mention in the punishment section is about the auto counters effect of Chaos Judgment Stance. So Chaos Judgment Stance, as I said before, can be manually entered by pressing back 3, And while in this stance, Anna will counter most lows. I mean, she won't counter um, she won't counter things like tails, like Alex and Roger have lows that use their tails. Um, this hop kick counter that looks like that, and she counters a low. That will not activate for Alex and Roger's tail lows. Um, it's kind of that's kind of the same rule as for reversals, the generic reversals that don't counter elbows and knees. Her Chaos Judgment low counter kind of works on that principle as well. So things like Feng's crouch dash low, that's kind of like a shoulder or whatever that is, that also will not activate her low counter. You know, that'll hit her, even if she's in Chaos Judgment stance. But Chaos Judgment stance also reverses all throws. I'll try and show you what these reversals look like, just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay. See, that was the counter, and it's just automatic. You know, you don't have to press any other button. It just automatically launches the low, which is pretty good. And for the throw, just show you that. The throw is a little bit more difficult because the throw reversal is a little bit more difficult because the throw reversal doesn't activate as quickly as the low reversal or counter, or whatever you want to call it. It takes a little bit longer to become active, so she requires a little bit more time for that effect to become active. But let's see if it works with this. Yeah, managed to get into it in time. But yeah, it doesn't activate as quickly as the low counter. Yeah. So you get 25 damage off the throw reversal. And as far as I know, it reverses all throws. I can't think of a throw um, that it won't reverse. I don't know if it will reverse Marduk's tackles. You know, when he goes into the stance and tackles you, I don't think it will. But apart from that, I can't think of any other sort of throws that will that won't activate that throw reversal. So these are interesting little effects of Chaos Judgment stance, and the low counter can be used, you know, especially to devastating effect, because there are quite a few strings in this game. Characters have quite, some strings that have a low in them, that either in the middle or in the end, that your only option to deal with that low is to parry it, because it's in the middle of a string and you can't hop kick it. Of course you could just duck it, but because it's part of a string, then you can't punish it. So really your only option is to parry it. Now there are a lot of these kind of strings that Anna could parry it, and she could do the little kind of bootleg, not much damage combo. But quite a few of them she can actually back three in time, even in the middle of the blocked string, and get a full launch off of. Now, obviously, again, this is why I was talking about you need to be able to read your opponent, because just going into Chaos Judgment stance is risky. So you need to have a read on your opponent for this to pay off. But, law players especially, they like to abuse Junkyard, which has that second hit, which is a low, and the only thing you can do about that is parry it. If you've got someone a law player who's doing that all day and night, that's a perfect time to use your back three instead of a parry. because you'll get a full combo off of it. So let me just see if I can show you that. Okay, there we go. So that's the string that I'm talking about, the junkyard string. You can't hop kick that if if the first hit of that string is blocked. Characters can't hop kick that. But let's see what happens if we back three it. Yeah. Full launch for your full launch for your pleasure, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty. I've done that a couple of times to law players, and they just don't expect it. They definitely don't see it coming. Um, Now, you've got to be smart about it. You've got to be smart about when you do that and when you don't. Um, I would say it's something you want to use very sparingly. You know, you use it the first time, and then probably don't use it again. The thing about it is that it should put the fear of God into them, because they should be thinking, oh my God, I just got launched um for a low in a string that I thought you could only parry. So that should really kind of throw them a little bit, and they should be pretty scared of throwing out that string again, at least the low, um, because they know that you've got that option now. So Junkyard is a really good string for that. Fangs back to 342, the three in that. You can also do it with that. There's a whole bunch of these kind of strings that you can do it for. Where your only option is a parry. Instead, you can back three it and get full launch. Um, it's pretty awesome, and it adds something unique to Anna that other characters just cannot do. Um, there's no other character that can do that sort of thing. So, um, you know, it's it's uh, it's an interesting tactic, but do use it sparingly. Don't just don't always try and back three um, lows. Okay, so finally, just while we're on the topic of Anna's defensive capabilities, I just thought I would mention that she has a generic reversal, and this is done by pressing back 1 plus 3 or back 2 plus 4. There's no difference between, if you input either of those commands, it's the same thing. And that's what it looks like. It's a reversal. It reverses highs and mids, but not elbows, knees, heads, etc. All those, you know, non-limbs really. Um, won't reverse any of that. This is another good technique for telegraph strings. We were talking about back three in terms of um, a low in a string that you maybe can see coming from a mile off, and you can counter it in that way. Her reversals are good for highs and mids in strings that you think, okay, he's definitely going to do the mid ender, or he's definitely going to do the high, especially for things that aren't punishable. For strings that end in a high or a mid but aren't punishable, you don't get any damage off blocking them. That's what reversals are really good for, because it gives you some damage. We're going to use Law again as our example here. Again with Junkyard. Junkyard can sometimes be a problem because they can go into DSS after the third hit of Junkyard, and kind of give you problems in terms of that. So if you were wanting to stop that, you could always just reverse the third hit if you knew they were going to do the mid. So reversals do require timing to pull off. you have to react with the right timing to get a reversal. But I'll just show you what that looks like. There we go. Reversal. And that was 36 damage for that, so that's pretty good, because if I was to just block that string, see, I mean obviously I could parry the low, but I'm just using this string as an example. I know there's no punish for that. There's nothing I can, there's no damage that I can get off blocking that. So it's that kind of a situation that reversals are good for. But again, as I've said before, and I probably have to keep on saying throughout this tutorial, you need to be able to anticipate what your opponent is going to do. You need to know that they're going to finish the string, what ender they're going to, what string ender they're going to use. You need to be on it with your reads for reversals to work.